Hello, everybody. Yay, we are live. Hello, Facebook. Hello, YouTube. No matter how you're joining us, welcome. My name is Alex Johnson. I'm the Joint Interim CEO and Director of Communications at the Jane Goodall Institute of Canada. And I am very thrilled to welcome you today to this little virtual birthday soiree that we have for the one and only Dr. Goodall. I will be bringing her out shortly, but before we get started, I just want to say that all of us at JGI Canada acknowledge that the land our office operates on is on the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat and Peton First Nations, the Seneca, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the New Credit. And we are honored to be able to do our work on this territory. So in a moment, I will welcome Dr. Goodall. Throughout the stream, we're also going to be joined by a few very special guests who want to pop on to wish Dr. Goodall a happy birthday. We'll also be chatting a bit about JGIC's virtual auction, which is happening in honor of Dr. Goodall's 88th birthday and is on now as we speak. There are gorgeous items and experiences up for grabs. Oh, there's the URL right there. All of the proceeds are going to continue Jane's work via the Institute in Canada. As I said, just amazing items. The team has done an excellent job, and so many incredible brands and individuals have donated amazing things. And I checked just before coming on here, and we went live on Friday, but we've already raised almost $25,000. So thank you to everybody who has already bid. Head to the URL this afternoon and dig in, get bidding. And now I want to welcome our very special birthday guest of honor. This is a woman who has given so many gifts to the world, continues to give so many gifts to the world, and she deserves all of the birthday love that we in Canada can muster. Here she is, the one and only Dr. Jane Goodall. Hi, Jane.
Hello, everyone.
Now, I know that your birthday is actually a week away. But we in Canada wanted to be among the first to wish you a very happy birthday. So happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
In my family, we actually, everyone's birthday, they get to celebrate as many days to celebrate as years that they've been alive. So you get 88 days to celebrate this year. Do you have any special plans?
I'll end up an alcoholic at that rate.
Well, do you use your family doing anything for you or anything fun?
Well, I'll be leaving my family. I'm off on the road on Wednesday, which is before my birthday. So I'll be in California, and I will be having a birthday lunch with the Jane Goodall Institute USA staff, many of whom I haven't met because for 2 years I've been grounded in the UK. And then in the evening, a wonderful dinner with a major donor and some very close friends.
Oh, that's nice. Well, how are you feeling about getting back on the road? I wanted to ask you, it's been 2 years since you've left your home in England. How are the nerves and the anticipation about getting back on the road?
Well, when I was first kind of grounded here, I was frustrated and angry. And then I thought, well, that's no good. So we created Virtual Jane, who's been busier than ever before in my entire life. I mean, literally. I haven't had since the pandemic began one day off, one holiday, one weekend. It's been Zooms and Skypes and interviews and podcasts and virtual lectures and, of course, thousands of emails and video messages. And now back on the road, well, I've sort of forgotten what it's like, but I know it'll be a holiday. I used to think I couldn't be busier than when I was 300 days a year on the road, but now I know what I experienced then compared to now was a holiday.
I mean, it's funny to think that it's going to be a holiday to get back on tour, but I mean, I can attest to that. This is the third event that you and I have done this week, and I'm exhausted. But for you, it's just one small part of your day. You have like 7 of these a day.
No, there's 3 or 4 a day. And, the upside is I said yesterday to our communication guy in the US office, I said, you're telling me that I've reached millions more people. How many more millions have I reached by sitting here? And he said, no, Jane, it's billions. I said, what? He said, it's billions. It's billions more people and in many more countries. So that's the silver lining to being exhausted every day.
That must have been a very how was it hearing that number? I think I would have fallen on the floor.
Well, that's how I felt. Right? I felt disbelief, but if he says it and he said it twice, I have to believe it.
Amazing. I need to apologize in advance. I can hear my beagle about to let off a howl outside my door, so I apologize if a dog starts
That would be nice. I like to have a dog voice. Why shouldn't the dogs join in this birthday celebration?
Absolutely. Well said.
Howl and howl and howl. And
okay, don't encourage her. She'll really get going. On the topic of being on tour, though, I want to bring out our first very special friend. She is about to go on her own tour for the first time in a couple of years. She really doesn't need any introduction for our audiences. It's Canada's own Jann Arden. Hi, Jann.
Oh, I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you. Just honored.
Well, it's an honor for us too. And I love that I have Jane and Jann on the call. That's very fun. But even more fun is, Jann, it's your actual birthday today.
It is. Yes, I just turned 60 today. So yeah, I'm thrilled to be forging forward. I've loved getting older. I feel it really is an honor to have your health and to be able to do the things that you like to do and to participate in the world, and think that I still have time to try and leave the place a little better than I found it. And Dr. Goodall has certainly led the way with all of that. So at least I have a path to follow.
You sure have. I mean, if you're 60 and I'm 88, wow.
Yeah, no, it's great. I'm not much of a birthday person, to be honest. So I showered and put makeup on to talk to you guys today. So I hope people really appreciate that. My little dog he's 4.5 months old. He's put himself to bed. He just looked at me sitting in front of the computer, and he already knows it's like, oh, here she goes again. But I agree with Jane. It's just I've been so busy Zooming and riversiding and FaceTiming, booking, and been able to do jobs and do advocacy sitting in a chair and reaching. I mean, talking, Jane saying you've reached billions of people. It's true. I've seen you everywhere, and I knew that was a good sign. Just seeing you and hearing the conversations and what's going on and how we can change and what things that we can do, that people feel helpless. And now, being able to see you and have that kind of access has been profoundly, it's just been very empowering for billions of people.
Well, thank you. That makes it more worthwhile,
Indeed.
Yeah. Thank you.
Jann, can you tell us a little bit about some of the animal advocacy work you've been doing? You've obviously been a great supporter of our work and of Jane's, but you've been doing some awesome stuff out in the field in COVID as well. Can you share a bit about that?
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to work with an agency called the Canadian Horse Defense Agency. And since 2006, they've been working on stopping the hideous practice of exporting large draft horses from Canada to Japan. These are purpose-bred horses. So some of them come from auction houses, but most of them are bred to be shipped at 18 months to Japan for a raw sashimi market. It's a terrifying journey for horses. They're flight animals. It's really a very small group of people that make between $20 and $25 million a year shipping these horses. They have no lives. They grow up in feedlots. And we've raised a lot of awareness. We were very happy to announce that the Liberal government, one of their election platforms, they've mandated banning the live export. They're backpedaling a little bit now, so it's time to put the pressure on. But the people at the Canadian Horse Defense are a remarkable group of people. And we feel like it's a start of Canadian agriculture that we can change. And there's a saying in my business, you're only as good as the worst person in your band. And it's a taint, it's a sinister part of Canadian agriculture. And that it is a part of Canadian agriculture to send these innocent horses on a 2-day journey in a crate no food, no water, no headroom. So that's what I've been working on. I will not stop. We will not stop. There's hundreds of thousands of Canadians that don't want us doing that either. So fingers crossed, the Liberals will follow through on Prime Minister Trudeau's mandate to end the live export of horses across oceans, and it's a hideous journey. So let's keep hoping.
Yep, and it's not just horses; it's cows and it's pigs and
Yes.
it's horrible, horrible, horrible.
Yes.
You have to have interest groups for each kind of group of animals, but the whole thing is absolutely stinks.
It sure does. Live animal export is it really is a shameful part of modern man, and we're dealing with these the pandemics that have shown us, viruses jumping from animals to humans is part of our future. This does not end with COVID-19 here today, folks. It's something, if we keep traveling animals thousands and thousands of miles in hideous, unclean, inhumane conditions, we are going to be facing a lot more pandemics in the future.
Yep.
Jann, I'm going to let you jump in because I think you have some questions for Jane. Yes,
I do. Just, you were talking about industrial farming, and that's certainly a part of industrial farming. Over the years, have you seen any progress that's being made, like a good news stories around the world in sustainable and ethical farming practices with animals?
Well, yes, because for one, massive new awareness. People weren't aware before.
Exactly.
People just didn't think, and you can't expect people to be angry if they don't get education. So now there are many, many different animal groups advocating and exposing with secretly filmed video the horrendous conditions in these factory farms. And that has made a major difference. And one sort of outlet of that is the huge increase in veganism. Many, many more people are vegan. When you ask them why, they say, well, it does make me feel healthy, but actually the reason is that I can't stomach the thought of the cruelty to animals that goes with not only the beef and the pork, but also the eggs and the milk. So yes, there has been a major shift in consciousness.
Yeah, very fast growing food movement is veganism, and even a couple of plant-based meals a week. You always try and encourage people to start somewhere. For me, laughter has always been such a great balm for my soul to use laughter and to use humor in my life, even looking at very dire, dark situations that seem impossible. And I was just wondering, how you bring joy into your life and laughter into your life as you work so hard for these animals, over these past decades. I mean, you've seen so much hardship, but a lot of triumphs too. I love seeing, a chimpanzee run into your arms that hasn't seen you for a while. And it's just like, there she is, my old friend. And it's so encouraging. I think it really, to smile and to laugh and to feel that joy is important. So I was just wondering what your take was on that.
Well, it was much better than what you say. And there are so many bits of information out there. People are getting the wrong idea. I never met that chimpanzee until that day. That was the first time I met her. And I was with her on the boat. And so when she came out of her traveling cage onto the island, she first went to Rebecca, the veterinarian who saved her life, and presented her rump to be patted, which is submission. Then she climbed on top of her traveling cage and looked around, and she looked past me like this, and then suddenly did a double take and looked back. And that's when she came and embraced me. And it was the most amazing thing that's ever happened. And it was as though, as one of the guys said, how did she know that that lady is responsible for us having our freedom? And of course, she didn't know that. But there is a connection that I have with animals. It's not the only occasion, but that was a very, very special occasion. And fun and laughter. Well, we do a lot with children with our Roots and Shoots program that's in over 60 countries now. And the other day I was having question and answer with children of all ages. But this little girl of 5, she came up to the microphone and she spoke very quietly because she was very shy. And she said, "Dr. Jane, can you tell me why apes don't have tails?" And I mean, yeah, why don't apes have tails? I mean, that's out of the mouths of babes. I said, I can't answer you. But, why don't we have tails? Because we're apes too. And so it's just, children make you smile and children make you laugh. And they say such wonderful things. And they're so innocent and so perceptive.
And so open.
And so open.
Well, thank you for that. For sharing that little piece of the story. Like you said, the internet is very powerful, but sometimes you get fragments of stories. So thank you. That makes it even just more mind-boggling. Great moment.
Jann, of course, we have this virtual auction that we're hosting in Jane's honor right now, and you actually have contributed something to it. Do you want to talk about that?
I am so happy, so thrilled to donate tickets, premium tickets to my Vancouver show. So we've got a pair of tickets. It's at the Queen Elizabeth Theatre. It's for Jane's 88th birthday, of course. And so it's June the 14th. Please bid. It's down at the bottom of your screen there. And I'm hopefully I'll get a chance to say hello to you. And if not, we will definitely give a shout out. But yeah, it's going to be a great show. And yeah, so get in there and bid, darn it.
Yes, thank you, Jann. That's awesome.
Please get in there and bid. Please give money to help us keep our programs going and to save chimps like Wunda from a fate worse than death. And of course,
for our audience at home, our auction team actually just pushed those tickets live as we're sitting here talking. So do take the advice from Jane and Jann here. Go make a bid. Jann, thank you so much. Happy birthday. It's so great of you to do this.
I'll never forget this birthday as long as I live. It's special. It's an honor. You inspire so many millions, billions of people, Dr. Goodall, and it has been an absolute adventure of educational, learning, emotional journey, and I can't wait to see what you do next. And we're all with you. You've got so many of us that are learning, and I have a lot of hope for this old world. And like you said, young people, they're changing how they think. They don't want to inherit a world that is broken. They want to inherit a world that's filled with possibility, kindness, and thank you for that, Dr. Goodall. So, and happy birthday next week. Enjoy. Don't become an alcoholic.
Thank you, Jann. Oh, that was such a treat. That was so fun. All right, you're stuck with just me for a minute here. I wanted to ask you about something pertaining to the auction that I actually think means a great deal to you. So one special item that we have is Air Canada has donated round-trip airfare for anywhere in the world. And interestingly, they're the first airline of the Americas to get the IATA illegal wildlife trade certification. So they've made substantial commitments to ending the illegal wildlife trade, which is obviously something that you have put a great deal of time and effort into. Can you talk a little bit about when you first realized that the illegal wildlife trade was a really big problem and what you've been doing to end it?
Well, it was so far back that I realized about this trade. It was when I visited for the first time then it was called Zaire. Now it's the Democratic Republic of Congo. And I had been asked to go again and again because of all the baby chimps whose mothers had been shot. And because it's illegal, the government had confiscated them, but had nowhere to put them. So they were in these horrible, tiny cages. And so they were supposed to be sold overseas as pets or for circuses, and those days for medical research. And when I went there and I met some of them, I thought, this trade is illegal. And gradually I learned more and more about it and how it was a multi-billion-dollar industry that is benefiting very, very, very wealthy people, the kingpins right up at the top. So what are we doing? Well, JGI in many countries is working to end this illegal wildlife trafficking in any way it can. And one way in Africa is to try and enforce the legislation. One way is to try and persuade people to be brave enough to tackle these kingpins are highly influential, wealthy people. And most governments in Africa don't want to tackle them, whether they're trafficking chimpanzees, rhino horn, elephant tusks. They're sort of standing elite and aloof, but they have to be apprehended. Countries have to be brave. South Africa has managed to do that, Tanzania a couple of times. But then the other side of it, which JGI is really, really getting engaged in, is it's the demand. If you can help people understand in the country where these products are demanded, the suffering that's caused, the fact that it's bringing species like rhinos, elephants, even chimpanzees to the brink of extinction in some places, then people are more likely to refuse to buy these products. So we have to tackle both ends. We also try and support the rangers on the ground who are risking their lives almost every day to apprehend the poachers and very often lose their lives. So we're trying to tackle it from all different aspects.
Yeah, and I think it's maybe worth mentioning too for our audience here in Canada that I think sometimes we think of illegal wildlife trafficking as something that happens in other countries, but the practice is alive and well here. I mean, not only does Canada have a role to play in kind of the global network of trafficking, but we also have native species here. There's species of bears and turtles and like eels and plant life, what we call the non-charismatic species, that are really under threat. And I don't think that we're talking about that enough. And something that JGI Canada wants to do is raise way more awareness about that.
And our young people will be very helpful in that because they get really passionate. They get really passionate and they're bringing all these issues to the attention of their parents, their teachers. It's making a difference.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a good segue, actually, speaking of species in Canada, to bring out our next pal. I'm absolutely obsessed with this woman. She's a Canadian Nikon ambassador and the first Canadian geographic photographer in residence. She's a fellow of the Royal Canadian Geographic Society and the prestigious Explorers Club in New York City. And she's actually generously donated 2 incredible items to your auction. One is this gorgeous photo of a polar bear, a print of a photo she took, as well as a personal photography class. And for our audience at home, she's an amazing follow on Instagram, if you're on Instagram. Everyone, it is Michelle Valberg.
Hello. Hi from North Vancouver.
And what are you doing in North Vancouver?
I am heading into the wilds north of the island to hopefully photograph coastal wolves and other species, of course. But I'm working on a special project on coastal wolves, so my hope is that I'm able to spend some time with them in the next week with some great friends.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
We've been huge fans of your work here for forever. You've been a huge supporter of what we've done. A lot of your photographs are featured on our new website. I wanted to ask you, it's a big question, but I think you're very uniquely positioned to answer it. You've been out in the field capturing Canada's biodiversity for years now. I'm curious how you may see that biodiversity change over time and what those changes signify to you.
It's such a great question. And I feel somewhat of a newbie in the Arctic, even though I have been going to the Arctic for the last 15 years, and I've been there 60 times. One of the most alarming things that I heard last week was, and I believe everybody probably was aware of this, that the temperatures in the Arctic and Antarctic have gone up by a ridiculous 30, 40 degrees. I mean, I don't even know how that's even possible to think. So I've seen, I was in Churchill in November with the polar bears, seeing the ocean not frozen over until, I don't even know, actually. We were there until the latter part of November, and I'm not even sure when it actually froze over. But to see all the polar bears waiting to get on the sea ice, and the threat that our species are under because of climate change. And I think, everything that you have been talking about with Jen and Jane, and, this whole connection to the natural world, and the importance of educating people about the welfare of wildlife, continuing to inspire people. And for me as a visual storyteller, that's always what my goal is, to just spread awareness of what is happening. And, these coastal wolves are still being trophy hunted, and, people just don't understand what's going on with wildlife, from the turtles and the fish to the larger animals in the species that are at threat. So, I'm lucky enough to be a photographer, a wildlife photographer, and to be out there and sharing this beautiful connection that I have with the animals, in hopes that I inspire, the younger generations and the older generations to inspire their younger generations. I mean, it's not, our responsibility, but it's the children and their children, the importance of making sure that we're all aware of how we have to take a better stand and care for this world, so we have a better place. I didn't really answer your question, but
No, that's great.
I could go on. I was just so inspired by, all the the talk about being connected, and awareness, and education, and caring, and the possibilities, the kindness, the responsibilities that we have to really make sure that we leave this world in a better place than what it is right now.
Well, your work has definitely helped me have a deeper appreciation of Canada and the country I call home. And that's sort of step one, right? Is you have to appreciate the thing before you can fight for it. So I'm going to let you jump in now, because you have some questions for Jane, I believe.
I do. And as a visual storyteller, Jane, I have images that from a young age, that were inspiration to me. And I want to go back in time a little bit with you, to celebrate your 88th birthday. And when you were young, was there a photo that changed the way that you thought, or made you want to help? Like, do you remember an image that really transformed your thought process or your passion?
I would love to be able to answer you with a yes, but actually it's a no. I was born loving animals. I was born before television. I was born in World War II, or at least World War II started when I was 4.5. We couldn't really afford books. We didn't have much money. And so really and truly, there were no photos that stood out. But what I loved was books, 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 books. And we couldn't afford to buy new books. We got books from the library. The very first book I ever owned was given to me by my grandmother. I still have it. In 1945, I was 10. And it was the story of Dr. Dolittle. And it was the story which included taking animals from the circus and taking them back to Africa. And there was one picture in that book. It wasn't a photo. There weren't any photos. And it was Dr. Dolittle escaping from his enemies because all the monkeys joined hands, and Dr. Dolittle was able to walk across the monkey bridge to safety. And I think that really started my absolute dream as a child. I will grow up, I will go to Africa, I will live with wild animals, and I will write books about them. And of course, the second one was Tarzan of the Apes. I found this little tiny secondhand book, cost 1 6 in those days. I don't know what that would be today. I must look it up. But I just had saved up enough of my few pennies of pocket money to buy it. And of course, I fell madly in love with that glorious Lord of the Jungle. I was incredibly jealous because he married the wrong Jane. I thought she was a wimp, and she was a wimp, and I would have been a much better mate for Tarzan. So that was my dream. I will go to Africa. And everybody laughed at me except my amazing mother. And she's up here behind me, and I always have her close to my heart. She supported my dream. She said, if you really want to do something like this, you're going to have to work awfully hard, take advantage of every opportunity. And then if you don't give up, maybe you find a way. And that's the message I've taken to young people around the world, particularly in disadvantaged communities.
Yeah.
And so many have written to me or actually said to me, Jane, thank you, because you taught me that because you did it, I can do it too. So my mother's legacy is worldwide. I wish she was alive to see how far her message to me has been shared around the world.
Yeah. I had amazing parents as well, or my sisters and I had very supportive parents, and also helped us understand that there wasn't any restrictions. There was only possibilities, and that you could do anything that you wanted to do. You had to work hard, but you had to believe in your passion. And clearly you had the passion from a very, very young age. And that was, I guess, my next question is, finding that passion, and would you give any, I think any young person should know about your Roots and Shoots program. Obviously it came to you at such a young age and you followed your dream. You kind of answered my second question to you in your statement before. So, would you, as is there anything you would like to say to young people out there that would help them, encourage them to find, if they have a passion, to how, what would you I don't know how to say it. Like, what would your
I can answer you. I've
oh,
met
you
many,
know what I'm saying. You know what I want to say.
yeah, I've met many young people who actually have lost hope. That's why I started our Roots and Shoots program. And I was meeting them all around the world. And that was way back at the end of the 1980s. Already they were losing hope because of the harm we've done to the planet, to the natural world. And so I began talking to them. Why do you feel depressed? Why do you feel angry? Why don't you seem to care? Same answer, more or less. Because our future's being compromised. There's nothing we can do about it. Well, the future has been compromised. You grew up long after me. Your future was compromised. Even my future was compromised. I think we began compromising the future during the Industrial Revolution. But when they said there was nothing that could be done about it, that's when I said, no, no, no. We've got a window of time. If we get together, there are things we can do to slow down climate change, slow down the loss of biodiversity, to restore the environment to places we've destroyed. We can save animals on the brink of extinction, and so on and so on and so on. That's when Roots and Shoots began. And I think the reason that Roots and Shoots is growing so fast, it's in 65 countries now and growing.
Wow.
And it takes members from all ages, even some little wriggly preschoolers, lots of kindergarten, lots of university, even some adults now. But they get to choose. They choose projects to help people, projects to help animals, projects to help the environment, because it's all interrelated. And because they get to choose, they're passionate. They roll up their sleeves and they take action. And they see that they're making a difference. So all around the world now, in these 65 countries, there are young people making a difference. And that's my greatest hope for the future, because they're changing their parents, they're changing their grandparents, they're changing their teachers, they're changing each other.
Hope.
Hope, 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 hope. And I'll just add this on, because I now see that the human race is at the start of a long, very, very dark tunnel. And right at the end is a little shining star. That's hope. But there's no point sitting at the mouth of the tunnel and saying, I hope that star comes to us. I want hope. No, it's not like that. You've got to roll up your sleeves and you've got to crawl under, climb over, work your way around all the obstacles that lie along that tunnel, like climate change, like loss of biodiversity, like poverty, like overconsumption, like corruption, and all the other things that you can think of. We've got to fight those, but as we go along the tunnel, we've got to reach out and take others with us. Together, we can reach the star together.
Okay.
Michelle got a bit misty, I think, there. That's a good sign.
You tell? That's exactly.
You know, it's funny. I have on the topic of hope next to my desk here, Jane, when I finished reading your awesome book, The Book of Hope, I was having kind of a crummy day that day when I read the last chapter, and I went out to my backyard, and my silver maple was starting to drop leaves in my backyard. And so I took 2 of them and I pressed them in the Book of Hope, and have this little thing, and it sits next to my desk every day as a reminder that we can't do anything unless we have hope, and that hope is an act of courage that precipitates action.
Without hope, we give up. If we all lose hope, we're doomed. The planet is doomed. Because without hope, if you don't hope that your actions can make a difference, if your photographs, Michelle, you didn't feel were going to impact people, why bother to take them for yourself? Well, maybe, but that's a bit selfish. You take them and share them because you hope that they will impact people.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have hope, why bother? I mean, let's drink, eat, and be merry, for tomorrow we die.
I loved your analogy of the tunnel and seeing the shining star at the end of it, and that we have to walk over those obstacles and bring people with us to reach those milestones and that hope. We have to, bring people along with us.
Yep.
Well, Michelle, thank you so much for coming on and doing this. It's a real privilege to have you and Dr. Goodall on a call together. We love you. You're the best. And thank you again. Stay safe in North Van. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. It's interesting, as I was listening to you two speak, I loved her question about whether or not there was sort of an iconic photo that changed your life. But it's interesting, the reverse of that is there's so many iconic photos of you that have helped people over the years. The amazing one of you touching the chimpanzee, I think, is sort of encapsulates all of your work about building compassion for animals and in one photograph.
Yeah, reaching out to little Flint, I think you mean. It's like Michelangelo's painting of God reaching to man. It's man reaching to the animals. And, you know, when I began and got to university after I'd been with the chimps 2 years, never having been to college, and I was told I'd done everything wrong, you know, that I shouldn't have given the chimps names, they should have had numbers, and I couldn't talk about personality, mind, or feeling. But fortunately, because they're so biologically like us, and when my husband then, who was sent by the Geographic to take film, and people saw, and the scientists saw the film, chimpanzees using and making tools for termite fishing and ant-eating and water drinking. And when they saw all the complex interconnection of the communication gestures, kissing, embracing, holding hands, patting on the back, they had to admit, but they never did openly, but inside themselves, they had to admit they'd been wrong. Isn't a sharp line dividing us from the rest of the animal kingdom? And so thanks to that, thanks to the chimps, now science has opened its mind to study other animals, these amazing beings with whom we share the planet.
You know, you did talk about roots and shoots a bit with Michelle, but I did want to give an opportunity for folks on the call in our audience who might not know as much about roots and shoots. If you could maybe speak to why it's so important to you, because it's also the 30th anniversary this year of the program, which is incredible. Can you speak a bit about why you love that program so much?
Well, you know, first of all, many of us are working really, really hard on conservation, on eliminating animal trafficking, all these terrible things that are happening all around us. There are many, many groups working, struggling, fighting to make things better. But all of our efforts are in vain if the new generations coming up aren't better stewards than we've been. And so You know, when I was traveling the world, as I said, and meeting all these young people who'd lost hope, it made me realize that, you know, we need to gather them in. We need to help them understand that everything's interconnected, that we've got to stop working in silos. I'm working on poverty. I'm working on uh, food production. I'm working on water programs. It's all interconnected. And that's what Roots and Shoots is doing. And not only that, but because we try to bring young people together from different countries, usually virtually, they come to understand, and we're not preaching to them. Nobody said this to them, but because they interact, like Africans interact with Americans, like Israelis interact with Palestinians, like Muslims interact with Christians, they they from within they understand that much more important than the color of your skin, your language, your culture, your religion, is the fact that we're all human beings. And as I said, the fact that young people get to choose their projects, they're not dictated to from above. They're listened to. We hear their voices. We empower them and encourage them to take action. And they sit around and talk to each other about, well, I care about the bad treatment of animals. Yeah, well, I care about the children with no homes. I care about the adult homelessness people who sleep on the street. I care about the illegal cutting down of the forest, which destroys the environment and indigenous people's homes. And so they get to work after discussing with each other what they will do. And they work on projects that they are passionate about. And they're changing the world. No question, they're changing the world.
And for everybody at home, we've got the URL here. It's you can go check it out and get involved and share it with a young person in your life. I think it's important that young people across Canada know the program exists. Right now, coast to coast to coast, we have hundreds of Roots and Shoots projects and groups in Canada, but we want thousands. So please go check it out.
And we're working with the Aboriginal communities, the First Nation people, which is really important. And I've loved to watch Roots and Shoots in Canada growing and taking on its own, because in every country it's a little bit different. And the young people choose projects that are relevant to their, you know, if they're poor, then the projects are relative to poverty. If they're, you know, First Nation, then the projects will be relevant to the First Nation beliefs and traditions. So that's why it's successful, because it's so flexible.
Yeah, and importantly, it's a good call out. We weave Indigenous perspectives through every step of the Roots and Shoots journey here, and one of the most important steps is community mapping. So people, young folks, are supported and taught how to go out into their communities and identify the specific barriers to conservation and sustainability in that community that they live in and work in and play in. So not only is it youth led, but it's also very much rooted in the environment in which they're in, which makes it 1,000 times more impactful. Like real change happens because they're very aware of what the problems are. So I have one more question for you, Jane, connected to the auction. We have a lot of very cool sustainable items in the auction, and I just wondered if you could maybe speak to the importance of the role that business plays in sustainability and conservation, and what you would like to see more businesses do to help achieve your vision.
Well, fortunately, businesses are beginning to change. And as they change, why do they change? I'll give you one little story, which I've said before, but I will say it again, because I was talking to the CEO of a big international corporation. And he said, Jane, for the last 10 years, I've been really, really working to get my entire business ethical, like the way I treat my customers, the way I treat people in the home office, the way I give the appropriate wages, appropriate wages to people in the countries where we source our products, helping the communities where they live, and also working to give appropriate wages and everything else to the supply chain. He said there were 3 reasons. First of all, I saw the writing on the wall. I saw that in some places, the finite natural resources, because our natural resources are finite, they were being used up more quickly than nature could replenish them. So if that went on with business as usual, that would be the end of my business, other businesses too. Secondly, consumer pressure. More and more people are understanding what we're doing to the planet. They are not wanting to buy products that are cheap because of unfair wages being paid, or products that have harmed the environment in their production or were cruel to animals. They don't want to buy those anymore. So consumer pressure has been forcing us to change the way we do things. But he said the thing that really tipped the balance for me was when my little girl, about 10 years ago, she came home from school. I think she was 8 or 10. And she said, "Daddy, they're telling me that what you're doing is hurting the planet." That isn't true, is it, Daddy? Because it's my planet too, isn't it? That reached the heart. So because more and more businesses are changing for 1, 2, or 3 of those reasons I just gave, it is definitely an encouraging sign of hope. Because for too long, there's been this absolutely ridiculous idea that there can be unlimited economic development in the way that we have always thought of economic development on a planet with finite natural resources. It cannot be. And not only finite natural resources, but growing human populations and growing populations of livestock. There's 7.7 or 9 or whatever, it keeps changing, billion of us on the planet now. There's going to be closer to 10 billion in 2050. And if we're already beginning to run out of natural resources, what's going to happen? We mustn't hide this question, which has been for so long considered politically insensitive, and we shouldn't talk about it. We can't hide from it. It's a fact. And there are figures. We just have to think about it and think, how do we want to move forward? Because we can't go on with business as usual.
Hope, think, act. There's the formula. We nailed it.
Yep.
All right. Well, Jane, I'm going to let you go because I know you have family dinner to get to, and we definitely don't want to delay that. But you're the best. We love you. Happy birthday. I will be raising a glass to you tonight, a wee dram, as you say. Just have a tremendous, tremendous year, and can't wait to see you in person, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Yes, hopefully. And Alex, first of all, thank you, and thank everybody who's listening. And my last message to everybody is just remember, every single day that you live, you make an impact on this planet, and you get to choose what sort of impact you make. That's my last message to everyone.
That is the perfect one. And what an impact you have made in 88 extraordinary years. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, everybody. And bye. Oh, and wait a minute. Let me give you a chimp greeting for goodbye.
Oh, that would be great.
Straight from Gombe. Okay. Me, Jane.
Absolutely. You're the best. Thanks, Jane. See you soon.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
To everyone at home, thank you so much. I could listen to Jane do the pant hoot all day, every day. So happy we got that. Before we go, I just wanted to let you know about a very exciting contest that we have running right now. You could win a $2,000 gift certificate with G Adventures. Entries are only $25. So go to giverg.ca/Jane Goodall. Get a couple of entries now. And just a reminder about the auction, it is truly, truly stacked with awesome stuff. We have Air Canada tickets, as I mentioned. There's a Tanzanian safari with Wild Women Expeditions. There are original paintings made by chimpanzees. There's Raptors tickets for all the Raps fans in the house, and a club dinner. There's sustainable subscriptions and vegan clothing. The list goes on. So do go check it out. That was such a treat. I hope you all had a ton of fun. I certainly did. Thank you for being part of the JGI community. We love you all. Stay safe, stay connected. Have a great rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.